Hey, I don't know how to do these filters. I think this is the only filter I got. Okay, there you go. All right. All right. So let's see if this works. If this works better. Okay. All right. So I think I'm okay. No, that was probably me. Oh, you texted me. Get back on Instagram, girl. I can't stop my life. Okay, there you go. So at the bottom of it, it should have something where you could request to join right on there. Do you see a button that say request to join as soon as you came on Eloquently Spoken? There you go. Okay. Accept. I accepted it, so you should be up there soon. Yay! It worked.
I did it. I did it.
I was like, because every time I tried to invite you, it wouldn't do anything, and it did start pausing too.
Yeah, I was like, is that me or is that her?
Mm-mm.
I was like, okay. Because
It
sometimes,
was me.
everybody be on the Wi-Fi. So sometimes the connection slows down with everybody using it. So I was
Well,
like,
I'm the only one up at my house this time of the night, so ain't
well,
nobody else.
I'm not. So I'm
Oh,
like, so that's why I
oh,
thought it was,
okay.
that's why I thought it was me. I was like, is it me? Because everybody
Oh,
on, I'm like,
all right, all right. Let me share a little bit, and then we're gonna start. I usually shout out Black businesses. Mrs.
hey,
Selfie, go check
Kai.
out on Instagram. She also has Mrs. is spelled MRZ, and she has a website, mrselfie.com. Spiritual Asset. Go check out her Instagram, website, TikTok, spiritualasset.com. Um, Also, we have Raw Stars, Dwayne Maxwell. He has a clothing line, and you can go to his Instagram on here as well. Healthy Tips LLC, if you live out in Baltimore, but even if you don't, she still will ship it to you. And we working on a website for her for y'all to get things too. As soon as I can have some time, then I can help her with the website. But those are the main ones I usually shout out. So I'm gonna let you shout out yours because we have eloquently spoken for
You're so silly. Oh, goodness.
So talk
So,
about that. Talk about that a little bit.
so what you want me to shout out?
Your business and what you're doing with eloquently spoken. What is about?
Okay, so my women support group is Eloquently Spoken, and what we do is we provide sisterhood. We provide meetings on Zoom without judgment. And I think it's very important because so many people, regardless of how many people you have in your life, you don't always have somebody who you can talk to and be in a judgment-free zone. So that's what I provide for all the ladies that attend every third Wednesday of every month.
Yes. And when I remember, I'm there too.
That's right, honey. Yes.
My brain remembers. But I've tried to make most of them as I could, and when you go there, it's, you could either just listen, and sometimes it helps to listen, and then or you can talk. Mm-hmm.
That is so true. Because
So
sometimes
they can
you gain
also
so
help
much
support you
knowledge.
in a way too. Okay.
No, I was just saying, you
Yeah.
get so much knowledge also just by listening. People think you got to come
Mm-hmm.
and you got to be a part and say something, but sometimes just
Mm-hmm.
listening can change your perspective on things as well. So that's the great part.
Mm-hmm.
But if anybody wants to check out the meetings, I post them on at Eloquently Spoken for Us on Instagram or on my website, eloquentlyspoken.net.
All right. And can they purchase some things for you for the
Are
brand
you,
as
are
well?
you want me to promote? Well, my hoodies are seasonal. I put them out, seasonally because, I don't think we don't need hoodies all year round, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
only come out at a
I
certain
will.
time and I'll do them by batches. So, just pay attention to the website so you'll know when the next batch is up to order. That and a
All right
t-shirt.
now. All right. Eloquentlyspoken.net. You can put it in the chat, and so they can see it and go to it. And then today we are talking about boundaries, how to create boundaries, staying in your know. And mainly this channel mostly talks about, in relationship boundaries. So I want to start with that. I mean, we can always go into other types of, but I want to start with creating your boundaries when you're in a relationship. Like, how important is that?
Well, that is definitely very important because that's you establishing where you stand, right? In every relationship, that needs to be from the get go. We always talk about communication is very important. And so part of that communication is creating your boundary, what you want to stand for versus what you're not going to stand for. So,
Mhm.
yes, having boundaries in relationships are very, very important.
Hi, Miss Jade. Is that Miss Jaden? Miss Jaden from BK. I was just saying hi as people come up.
Oh, okay, no
So
problem.
so
Because I'm new to
yeah,
this stuff, so
yeah.
I be
So in
looking and
conversation, that's one boundary in relationships that you should set, and that's, yeah, it's very important. Like when you're conversating with somebody, like say you're just one example, um, you just started dating somebody, and all of a sudden
mhm.
they just start cursing all over the phone and stuff like that. And that's something that you don't like. How can you set that boundary?
Well,
So,
that should be communicated, right? Because and well, for that person to behave like that, that's what they normally do, right?
mm-hmm,
So that automatically is a red flag, right? Because this is how that person talks. Because if that was not the case, they would not have addressed you in that way. But this is just who that
mm-hmm,
person is. So now you have to decide at that point, should you go further, right? Because if somebody automatically out of nowhere just comes out and speaks to you, that is who they are. And I think as women, sometimes we look past that. So the first thing is to communicate, like, nah, that's not how you want to talk to me. Like, that's not what we
mm-hmm,
want to do.
mm-hmm,
But again, that is an automatic red flag. So it goes beyond you just saying, this is not how you want to speak to me.
mm-hmm. Okay, okay. All right. So would somebody try to assert something and say, listen, I don't really like to listen to all that profanity, so when you talk, can you try to speak without it? Or should they just chuck the person altogether?
Nah, you check them all together. because then that goes to set the tone for everything else, right? Because now that person know I can't even come to this person in that manner. Like I gotta come to this person correct, because if you're already checking it, and that's the problem, right? Things go unchecked and then it gets out of hand. So you have to check things right away, straight in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. But you had said it was a red flag. So do you think that's something that people should like, okay, maybe I need to stay away from this person, or should they check them and still continue? That's what I kind of meant.
But it depends, right? Because people might be just used to speaking to someone that way. That's just their demeanor,
Okay.
right? You might have somebody who's just aggressive like that. They speak like that, and they speak like that to everybody else because it's been acceptable. And now they come to you and they like, oh, nah, I can't talk to her like that because she's not really with that, right? And so it could go either way. It could go where that person might be like, this is who I am. This is how I speak. Like, who you think you are telling me not to speak to you like that? It's how I talk to everybody. Or they might be like, okay, this person don't like this, so let me just change this altogether. You know, because they might be at at a place in their life, but they be like, you know what? Let me change. It's possible, but you have to be the one to determine whether or not if that should go forth.
Okay. Understand. Let's see. Next question. What can happen in a relationship if you do not set boundaries?
That's
Hey, Mojo.
that just can lead to turmoil, can it? Right? If you don't set boundaries, like, what are you doing here? Like, who knows what their purpose is at this point if there are no boundaries being set, right? Like when you start up the relationship, you ask questions about somebody, you getting to know a person, right? But that's also showing respect for yourself out of everything else. It's showing like I stand for something. This is me. This is not how you're going to talk to me. And because if you don't do that, what happens to people that don't do that? They get walked all over, right? And so what you do
So
is when
then
you
you
don't
have a
set
lack
that
of
balance,
disrespect, right?
exactly.
Okay. So that sometimes when you don't set boundaries, those are some things that you might create. I'm sorry. What other things that might happen, like maybe examples of what might happen if you don't create boundaries like that when it comes to conversation or how somebody talks to you?
Well, I mean, it's just like I previously said, if you do not set a boundary, that person does not know where they stand in your life, right? You have to be able to let someone know, like, what you're going to accept. Because if not, what they say, you just stand for anything if you just allow somebody to do whatever they want to do to you. So to avoid that, that is some conversations that need to happen from the get-go. But I also believe that we see those things early on, right? Like, I don't know about your past or, just other women past, but you see those things when a person is aggressive like that. You notice that from the jump. That is not something that just happens like overnight. That's just who that person is. A person who's respectful just knows automatically, like, I'm not going to talk to you in this particular way because I respect women. I just think sometimes if it's a relationship issue, it's a lack of respect for women.
So as far as when it comes to in other parts of the relationship, like financially or your love language, what are some reasons why you should set those type of boundaries?
What do you mean? Like,
say y'all don't really, if y'all married and y'all don't really handle finances the same way, you a spender, he's not, he a spender, you not. What? What could happen if you don't
well,
set
finances in
those type of
itself,
boundaries?
finances in itself can destroy a relationship, whether it's marriage or not, right? So if you realize early on that you are the spender, right, and the other person is the person who saves, then you should delegate how things should work, so that way it works out for the both of you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you can't be the spender and then be in control over the budget. That's not,
Ain't gonna be
that's
no
just not
budget.
even, that's not conducive to the household at all, right? Because now he's saving and he's wondering where the rest of the money going, and you just spend it. Like that's just not gonna work. So,
Mm-hmm.
in you know, in that type of situation, again, communication, right? That's huge, and actually, communication plays a part in almost everything.
Mm-hmm. So some people think, because we put in there also like affirming your no, and some people think that saying yes is being nice or loving, and saying no is being mean. Can you say yes and still be a mean person, and say no and still be a nice person?
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
okay.
See, the problem is like absolutely, but you know the problem with no is like people don't like to hear the word no, right? Because it's an ego thing. It makes them feel some kind of way when sometimes the issue is not even about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But saying your no and standing firm in your no is so powerful, because the thing is we think that we're supposed to give somebody an explanation when we say no, and we don't have to give someone an explanation. Like I think sometimes that we've gone to the point where we'll lie just to say no. Like, are you busy tonight? You know, you'll say like, "Oh, can you do this for me?" Nah, I got other plans, and you know you don't have no other plans, but but
Just say
because
no.
because just saying no causes friction or causes a problem, or you don't want to be looked at to the other person like, I just said no and I didn't give an explanation. Like we always feel like we got to give somebody an explanation, and you really don't. You have to learn how to
Mm-hmm.
just stand firm in your no and just no, that's it. Like it doesn't come with nothing else. No and two exclamation points. Like that's it. Like two, not even one, but two. But
Mm-hmm.
and the problem is because people feel like if you see the part with creating boundaries, right? So if you negate to create a boundary, then people always look for you to always be available to them. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you as a person will start just being available even when you're not available. You try to work things around it, right? Oh, let me see if I can switch my schedule to do this. But will that person
Mm-hmm.
do the same thing for you? Right? So that
But if
becomes the
you,
issue.
yeah.
But that becomes an issue sometimes if it's the same person
Mm-hmm.
that continues to do it. And like sometimes you just got to be like, no, I'm unavailable, because sometimes you're not available to certain things, and that's like that's
Um,
conversations and everything, right? Somebody call you, they got a
yeah,
problem.
J1Mlo says he struggled with it. What could he do? What are some solutions that he could do?
He
Or
said he
for
struggled with
somebody
saying
who
no.
struggles with, yeah.
Oh my God. So no, the funny part is I struggled with saying no for a very long time, right? Because I always just wanted to appease people. And if you need something, I'm gonna be there. You want something, I'm gonna try my best. I'll shift around things the same way. But sometimes you just gotta be like, I had to come to a point where it gets exhausting that you're always being made
Mm-hmm.
available to people. And sometimes you're not in this headspace mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
my only thing is to tell somebody, like, if you're struggling with it, like, you have to figure out what is it. Are you a people pleaser? Is why you're struggling with it? You know, do you want someone to say that you did something for them? You're like, what is the issue that makes you just have a hard time with saying no? And for me, at some point, I think it was people pleasing. You say yes all the time to people because, and not only just people pleasing, but because I will always I think about myself in situations, and I go, I would want somebody to be there and do certain things for me if I need it. So then you'll go ahead and you start to do it. But sometimes people take advantage of that. But you can't wear yourself out in the process. So you said Jomo said that?
Mm-hmm. He
So
said he
yeah, so
struggled with it.
and I think everybody does, right? Because you don't always want to tell
I
people
do.
no. Yeah, you don't always want to tell people no. Like you don't want to say no. You want to be like available to people all the time, but that will burn you out. and you stressed out, you aggravated because you're doing your stuff, their stuff, you got, your stuff on your mind, their stuff on, like, it becomes too much. So at some point you got to say, you know what, I choose me.
I know. Sometimes I just feel stagnant when I'm not doing stuff. So I'm always saying yes. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, just if I don't say, oh yeah, I want to do that. Like if somebody asks me about doing something, or if they need me to do something, I'd be like, oh, maybe I should try that. So if not, I feel like I won't be doing anything. But then what happens is I pile on too many yeses,
and then you get stressed out, right? Because now you, and then now you like feel like you committed to this, right? Because I know that I'm a person of my word, right? So if I commit to something, now I definitely feel like I have to do it, right? So now you done piled on 7 yeses, right? When probably 5 of them should have been a no. And then what?
And I hate when I don't come through for people, and then I feel bad because I couldn't come through for everybody.
No, it's
hey, Boo Boo, that's my goddaughter right there. Hey, Arjane.
Hi, Arjane. Yeah, she was on the last one. I remember her being the last one. That's the one that's in college, right?
Yeah, she's graduating this year.
She's graduating, okay, yeah.
Her math degree.
But but how crazy is that, right? So now you feel bad because you told somebody no, and then you stressed out. Like, that's not part of self-care. Part of self-care is also saying, like, I can't commit to this particular thing today. Like, I already have a lot on my plate, so I can't commit to that. And it's okay. It's okay. You can't feel bad for, standing firm in your no. Like, you want to wear yourself out while everybody else is good. And now the person who asked you to do something, you got 5 or 6 tasks, including theirs, and they probably got none. And then what happens?
Yeah. I tend to neglect other things when I do other. Yeah, I kind of, something suffers when I say a lot of yeses or take on more things than I can handle.
I remember you saying this before. I remember you saying that you always commit to going to everybody's function, and then hardly anyone always commit to when you're doing function, right? So how unfair is that, right? Like, you change your schedule, you get things in order, you get the kids to bed, and you're attending everybody's things, and then when you have something, those same people aren't showing up, right? How unfair does that become? So at some point you got to go, no, like, I can't make everything, and not sometimes because I'm busy. I just don't want to. And it's okay to not want to. Why do you got to feel bad when you just don't want to do something?
J1Mlo said he's going to practice this over the weekend.
Yes,
J1Mlo. No.
Yes. No. And J1Mlo, don't even give an explanation. Like, don't give an excuse either. Now, if you want to give an explanation, that's up to you. But do not give an excuse, especially if you got to lie. If you got to lie, don't do it. Don't do it. You're like, I'm tired, I gotta work tomorrow. No, you ain't gotta work. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Because it's so much more powerful when you say it and you know that you're just protecting your space. It's so much more powerful. Like, I used to do that too. Like, I always want to be there, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I got this, No, I'm not gonna make up and fabricate a story because I don't want to do something. And it's so funny because just recently,
I'm okay with hearing no from people. That's the difference. I'm all right with hearing no from people if you say no to me in the beginning. I don't. What happens with me is I get upset when people say yes and then they say no. That's when
why? Because why? But see, that's
you should have never said yes.
That's not true.
You should have said maybe or no.
But things happen in people's life, right? So say, for instance, you say to me, Tangie, can you make it today or whatever? I'm like, yes, I got it. I'm here. I could do it. And now I have an emergency in my family or something comes up and now I can't make it. It's not that I didn't have the intention to make it. It's not like I didn't have the intention to make it. It's just that something else came up and it made me not be available to you at that moment. But I think we take it so much more personal when somebody go yes and then go no, right? But but why? Because at the end of the day, you are human. You're allowed to change your mind at any part of the day, at any given moment, right? You can change your mind.
Yeah. But I don't know. But I'm getting better with it because of how much stuff that I took on for myself at this time. That I see that I have to say no to because I take on too much stuff. So when people say no to me, now I'm just like, oh, okay, I just move on to the next. So, but that was a very big struggle for me, especially with my close friends, because I would never say no. And then oh no, I got something to do.
But you know what that is, right? But you know what that is, right? That is basically expecting a you from everybody else. And then you get upset when they don't deliver how you deliver. You're not going to get a you in everybody else. If your mind is set like I'm going to be there for all my friends, and your friends is like, oh, I can't make it. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Now, if they exercising their no, right? You can't be mad at them for exercising their no because you decided to take on too many yeses.
Yeah, that's true. That's also I'm learning. Like I'm learning to accept the no in the sense of because they have other stuff to do. And I feel like I know that now, especially since I had kids. Like I didn't have children. They had children before me. So I think that was another big reason. They had children, and now that I've had children, I'm like, okay, well, damn, I shouldn't have got mad. I ain't deserve to be mad.
Right?
Yes, I know what it's like.
But that's the thing, right? That's the thing with it too, like where the explanations come in at, right? Because then we always feel like we got to give an explanation why you don't want to do something. And sometimes it could be like you had a long week and you like, I'm not doing nothing this weekend. Like it's gonna be a Netflix and chill type of weekend. I don't care who party is coming up. I don't care if you want to go out for drinks. I'm not doing it. I'm like in the bed and that's just gonna be it. It's gonna be one of those bum weekends, right? Whereas, and then you mad because somebody's like, oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to be a part. And they like, no.
Girl,
like, no, we be wanting an explanation for stuff.
Like I threw a wine party because anytime I throw something, usually when I throw an event, I try to think of every little detail and try to, make sure everybody leave remembering and taking home stuff and all of that. So I did a wine tasting at my house and I had vendors there because I had a patio. This is when I used to live with taking care of the disabled individuals. So I threw something really, I had a caterer. I had my goddaughters and my stepdaughter helping set up tables. It was the big thing and only like 10 people showed up. Everybody was like, that said they was coming, didn't show up.
Yeah. See, I know you was pissed off.
Man, the money I spent. And I felt bad for the vendors, the two vendors I had there. I had a masseuse there. I had so many. Girl.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, you went all out. See, so now that's heartbreaking, right? Because not only did you feel like nobody didn't show up, but you lost money in the process. And so that makes a difference, right? Because you lost money in it. So with that, I don't know. It's like sometimes you got to figure out, like when you doing certain things, you got to already know who people are. Like, you know who's definitely going to be those people that's going to show up. And then you know the people who is a possible, right? It's like playing the game of spades. It's a possible. They're going to be there. So, again.
But even the ones that wasn't possibles didn't show up. But they didn't show up for a good reason. I think one person came all the way there, but they were so drunk, somebody took them right back home.
Oh my God.
But she was like, I need to try to get out the car, and I threw up. So they just took me back home. I was like, oh, damn. And she's like, I tried, because she always show up. So when she didn't out and she told me that, I was like, okay. But other
But why?
people didn't
Yeah, but
really
see,
give
but
it.
then see that right there would have annoyed me, right? Because if I'm having a wine tasting, why did you show up to my event already that drunk, right? So
I didn't think about that.
right, so I'm having a
Why
wine
you get
tasting.
lit before you?
Why did you get that drunk before you
I
came
didn't even
to the
think about that.
wine tasting? Like, who does
Hmm.
that to the point they had to take you back home? And
It was
like if you get
it
to the
was a
point where
liquor
you
tasting fair or whatever it is, like a liquor thing or alcohol, whatever it is. You know how they have different fairs and they
uh
different vendors, and 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 I went to one with her and she ain't get that drunk before, but she had got drunk on that one, and I
oh
was
my
like, oh
gosh.
my goodness.
Yeah, so
But
so
I
so to,
mean,
yeah. So
you
to
know,
me, I probably would have
it's
been
fine.
annoyed at that in itself. Like you knew what today was about. Why in the world would you go and partake in
I
all this
don't think
drinking?
they knew that they was getting the, I don't know, because sometimes when you drink a little bit, you don't
No,
think you that gone until she had to take like a
listen.
45-hour trip to where I was at,
Mm-mm.
because I was all the way in Arnold. That's another reason why a lot of people ain't show up, because I was all the way in Arnold, Maryland,
Too
which is
far
like
out.
45 minutes away from Baltimore. I
Uh-huh.
was 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
So, the people that live closer to me did show up, but the people
Uh-huh.
that live far away didn't. So that was another reason. But I think I've gotten way better now. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying how it was like that for me, and I know, and the example of what I felt and what I went through. But now I know it's okay to say no. Now I know it's okay for other people to say no. I'm not gonna make it and take it and internalize it like I normally used to do.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
changing that part. Sometimes I still take stuff to heart. I don't know if it's just, being a Scorpio and being sensitive.
That so that's your
Sometimes we
makeup,
feel
right?
sensitive.
Yeah, so that's your makeup. So you take everything to heart and you take things personal. Even when it's
Hmm.
probably not personal, you take it personal, right? Yeah, so
Yes.
but the fact is
So
that
that's
you
that's
know
a
that's what
struggle.
it is. So that's like the greatest part about it. Like knowing what the situation and the problem already is already half the battle,
Hmm.
right? Because you already know. So now you know, like,
Yes.
all right, I got to work on not being so upset about stuff. Like, because that definitely was me too. Like upsetting in my feelings about stuff, like little things. And I'd be like, yo, you got to stop doing that. You got to get out your feelings over something and take the emotion out of it altogether
Hmm.
and just look at it
Hmm.
from another perspective, because sometimes we don't seem to always want to walk in somebody else's shoes or see what they got going on, and now we just mad and
Hmm.
angry like, oh, you didn't do this, and I would have did this for you, and then we head be all
Yeah.
shaking and
Yeah.
be upset, like the nerve, right?
Hmm.
But like we can't get mad at people who want to exert their no either, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a part of self-care. It's a part of protecting yourself. And I think the problem is that the people who get angry with you setting boundaries or creating boundaries have gotten so accustomed to you not having boundaries.
Mm.
And that becomes a problem. So you got somebody, say for instance, like
Hmm.
you was talking about earlier, the relationship part, right? So now say for
Hmm.
instance, this guy is talking to you all the time crazy. And he's talking to you disrespectfully all the time. And you allowed it because it was just like, okay, you kept it going. And now you just get up this one day, you like, nah, this is it. Like today is the last day that you're gonna speak to me in this manner. This is it. Automatically he's pissed off, right?
Hmm.
And rightfully so, because he's been doing it for so long. And he's been getting away with you not setting any boundaries. And that's another reason why
Hmm.
boundaries are so important, right? Because it
Yeah.
changes people and how they look at you, period. So had that been addressed from the beginning, he would already knew, like, nah, I can't do this or that to her, like the example you gave in the beginning, you know. I can't
Mm-hmm.
talk to her like this, so I know. But because he was already, benefiting from talking to you like that all the time, now you come out of nowhere, and now you're like, oh no, you're not gonna talk to me like that no more. Like, since when? That's how he looking at you. Like, since when?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah,
it
I
might,
would too. I would.
right? Yeah, because
If
anybody
I
who
was doing
changes,
something all the time with somebody, and all of a sudden they
yes,
like, oh, I don't want to hear that no more. Like, what? Well, then you don't want me around. That's just how I.
exactly, right?
That's just
So
my automatic thing. Like, this is me. I mean, I can't. I do that.
but that statement in itself is so toxic, right? This is me, right? That in itself is so toxic because people have gotten away with doing so many things by just that term in itself. This is me, but then they won't do it to someone else. So is that you, or is that who you choose to be for me?
Mhm. Could be. Or maybe they just feel more comfortable with you so they could be their true self, and that's how they are.
Yeah, but
They
what
just
does
don't
that
feel
do for
comfortable
you?
with other people.
So it's
Hmm?
okay for you to disrespect me, but you're gonna be careful with how you talk to somebody else. That don't need. That don't
Well,
even.
maybe
That
that
don't.
person don't see it. No, you're right about disrespecting. No, you shouldn't disrespect anybody. But I feel like sometimes when somebody is comfortable with you, they
Mhm.
may express themselves in a way that they may not express to somebody else who signs their paycheck, you know, because
So
they
now,
more
and so
comfortable.
again, it's so funny because I had this conversation with somebody about this very same topic. So I'm like, you can't tell me that's you if you can tone it down for the person who signs your paycheck, because there are people who have the paycheck and they still talk to their boss crazy because that really is them, right? And the boss know them. You have some jobs they be like, oh, that person, we already know how that person is, how they give it up, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So is that you, or you just choosing to tone it down when it's convenient? So
But
then you
don't
can't tell me,
everybody do that though? Everybody code
no,
switch in a little way.
you can
You know
switch,
what I'm
but
saying?
my thing is when it comes to disrespect, you can't tell me it's okay to
Yeah, not
disrespect
disrespect.
me, and then you are okay with toning it down for somebody else.
Mhm.
So you talk to me reckless, but when you're around your church folk, you ain't talking like that, right? Or when you're around your boy, you ain't talking like that. No, I don't want to hear that. This is me. Like, I don't want to hear that, because now
I'm
you're
sorry.
so now you're picking and choosing how you deal with me, because then now it
But
becomes
but
personal.
I'm not a cursor at work because I get fired. But my normal self is a cursor.
Yeah,
So it's
but that's
kind
but that's fine. That's you being you, right? We're talking about like
of
creating boundaries to the point of, like you said, in a relationship. If you allow somebody
yeah,
to continue to talk to you
that's
one way and disrespect you, then but then you see him talking to somebody else really nice.
mm-hmm.
How that
Yeah.
supposed to sit with you? Or
No.
you could talk to me and he got, but yeah,
Nah,
so
nah,
so
they
that's
ain't gonna sit.
that's the example you gave, like, with
Yeah,
relationships,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it can't fly with me, but then it's okay. Like, you want to be all nice and talk it. I know that's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
So you can ask that person, you know what, when you're talking to me sometimes, and if you start to get aggressive, I'm probably not going to listen to you. So I'm just going to end the conversation and walk away and come back. Something like that. You can like interrupt them, or maybe have these conversations outside of even being angry beforehand and say, you know what, when you talk to me with a tone that's like this, I can't really hear you. I just get
Mhm.
triggered. So can can we just step away and stuff like that? I'm going to step away. Like if you see
Mhm.
me walk away, just leave me alone. Just let me walk away. So some of those things you can do as well. And I think the reason why that I'm stating some of these things, because I kind of suffer from someone who was never really outgoing that much, and to a person to where, not being heard or not being seen, or sometimes being seen too much to where you wanted to not be seen.
Mhm.
So, and not really talking that much to somebody who I'm just like, you ain't talking over me, I'm talking over you. So
Mm-hmm.
I went from
It's a
that
power
to
thing.
that. Yeah.
So like almost
So
a power thing, right?
because I dealt with different things in different relationships, like domestic violence and stuff like that. So, and then when I was younger, my mother was a real take charge person to the point where when I went to college, like my first year in college, she registered for classes for me, and she found me a counselor. Like I didn't do anything, so
Yeah.
she was that over, you know.
Bearing. Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
how,
so
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 I
that
was
was
just
part of
born not, yeah, I never really had a voice that much. So when I
so
left her,
uh-huh.
that's when I found my voice. But go ahead.
So that's common in a lot of people, right? Like you go from being voiceless to being mean sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you feel like nobody heard you, nobody listened to you, and now you're like, you gonna hear what I got to say. It'll change your whole demeanor because you so busy now saying like this is the new me, right? That's how you see it. Like this is the new me. Like I'm not that person anymore. So now like I'm gonna let everybody know that I have a voice. And that's what happens when when you're voiceless for so long. That I mean, I was like that too, to be, in all honesty. Like I just quiet, allowed, so timid. So timid, didn't say anything. I could disagree with something, but to avoid conflict, you just keep going with the flow. And then I got to a point in my life I was like, nah, not doing that no more. And now like I'm on some and everybody like, oh, you don't got so mean. Who are you? And you like, wait, oh, you was benefiting from my lack of boundaries. Oh, okay, I get it. And that's just what it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what we spoke about. Like, people benefit from you not standing up and then they take advantage, you know? That's like that saying, people take your kindness for your weakness. It's the same
Yes.
exact thing.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
exact thing.
And then what happens is sometimes you become too aggressive to
Mm-hmm.
overly, to where you don't know how to pull it back. And that's I had to actually drop classes this semester because I have so much things going on. But my first thesis class that I took last term is going to be about like trying to treat people who suffer, like couples who suffer from aggressive communication, who have
Mm-hmm.
that aggressive communication because it leads to domestic violence a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they're arguing in front of the children, then that leads to their trauma as well. So I wanted to study that to try to change myself. So then I'm like, if
Well,
I
I
can
mean,
change myself, then I can
that's
help other
definitely a
people.
great thing. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a great thing. And so, like, all right, so when that happens, right, because of being in domestic situations, you will take on that. You will take on the fact
Mm-hmm.
of you think everything is aggressive. You think everything is this is how people talk, and depends on how long you were in it, right? You became so it's like a norm, right? This is how we talk to one
Mm-hmm.
another. And then when you get with somebody else, and now they're like, wait, we don't do that, like that's not how we talk to each other. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
changes how
Mm.
things work out because now you
Yeah.
realize that effective communication does not mean that you have to be screaming, yelling,
Mm-hmm.
or degrading one another. Even in a disagreement, you don't have to speak to each other in a way. You can agree to disagree
Mm-hmm.
and still come out without arguing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But somebody again has to set the tone. So
Yeah.
now you get into something new, and the person is
That's
like, "Wait,
unique.
wait a minute,"
Drew,
like,
that's Drew. Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Wait, who are you talking to? Like, we don't talk like that to each other, right?" And now guess who's looking like the crazy one? You are, right? Because now you like, hold up, this is something
But if
different.
that person don't set the boundary with you, sometimes they may end up taking on your personality.
Exactly, exactly.
Because they didn't set it with you. So they like, well, if you doing it, I'm gonna do it too.
I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do it too. Instead of just saying like
Mm-hmm.
no, this is not how we need to talk to one another. Like, it got to be
Mm-hmm.
respectful, right? Because I think we've gotten to the point where, people just in general just think that for you to be heard, you have to yell. For you to be heard, you have to curse and carry on and just over
Mm-hmm.
talking the other person to get, your point across. But that happens a lot to people who are voiceless, right? Just in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
and yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, we have to make sure we state that, like, in our opinion, right? Because some other people
Yeah,
might look
in
at
our
it
opinion.
in
Yeah,
our opinion. This is how we feel
just our
about it.
opinion, y'all.
Yes.
Mhm. So yes, I mean it's healthy to set boundaries, and it's a lot of of reasons why, and just to have your peace of mind sometimes, for safety and security when you're in a relationship. Like you don't you want to know that you're safe with this person. So you want to if you see something that's unsafe or somebody's putting you in an unsafe situation, then you know that okay, I'm not going to be around this person like that anymore, or I'm going to let them know I don't want to be in these type situations. This is not what I do. You can either let them know, or just take that as a sign to move on. Either one, it's up to you. In my opinion,
Exactly. Yeah, in
become
your opinion,
more.
right?
Yeah, my opinion. Plus, setting boundaries will help you become more assertive, and you become assertive without becoming aggressive. So that's another thing you could do as well. So,
And
um,
also
just
creating boundaries, it gives you peace, right? Because you have a peace of mind. Like, okay, like it's not that whole, oh my God, I feel bad because I did this, or like mentally it messes with you because, like you said, you don't really like to say no, right? So if you say
mhm.
no, now you're feeling bad about saying no. So what does that do for you for the entire day? Now the next 45 minutes or an hour, you like, damn, I shouldn't have said no, or I should have did this, or maybe I should just go and not say no. Like you'll start doing all, and now you don't have a peace of mind because you are really
Mhm.
now sitting here contemplating all the things that you should have done when you really wanted to just say no.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
it gives you that sense
and
of freedom.
yeah. So I mean, as far as like when it comes to love languages, when you're in a relationship, you can set boundaries when it comes to that. In a sense, you can let your partner know what you need, and what you want from them, and also vice versa. You can ask your partner,
Hmm.
what do you need? What do you want from me? But my question for you is it your responsibility, um, for your partner's happiness? Are you responsible for your partner's happiness?
No, no, you're not responsible for their
Why?
happiness because they should come in already being happy. Like you add to it, but you're not responsible for it. That's not a
Okay.
responsibility. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm responsible for taking care of my children. I'm responsible, like, but I'm not, so you're not responsible for anyone's happiness. But if you love someone, then you want to see them happy. So you're not going to do things that's going to create an unhappy environment.
It's like showing compassion. So you want to show if you show compassion for your partner, you may do things you may not want to do, but it's out of compassion, and your intention is more than anything to me, in my opinion.
Well, it depends on when you say
Somebody
you don't
else.
want to do something that you don't want to do. Because I feel like if this is something that you don't want to do, then you shouldn't have to do it. It depends on what it is, right? But if it's something like, for
But
instance,
when you're showing compassion for somebody in your relationship, sometimes you do things that you may not want to do at that time because you're just trying to show compassion for them. You're just trying to help them at that time.
but I think that
Not
can vary though. But I think that can vary depending on what the
okay.
situation is, right? Or
Okay.
what you're showing compassion about, right? So now if it's their
Okay.
feelings, say for instance, we're gonna give an example, like say maybe, you hurt your husband's feelings or whatever, and you didn't mean to hurt his feelings. So now you're showing compassion towards something that And you might not have felt like I didn't hurt your feelings. Like, you know, you might be on some that like that wasn't
So
no
yeah,
big
so
deal.
you
But it
don't
was a
really
big
want to
deal
apologize, but you do it anyway
because
not to show
because
compassion.
although it wasn't big for you, it was big for him. So in that instance, yes, you can you bend it a little bit because you like, okay, like, you know, it wasn't a big deal that I cut the TV off and you were still watching something. Like, you know, I ain't think about it like that. You know, to him, he like, yo, that was mad disrespectful. Like, why would you do that? So in that instance,
I've done
yes,
that too. That's why I'm laughing.
that's what you see. So in that instance, you be like, you know what? Let me look at it from his way because that was kind of rude. If I was watching something, he came and cut it off, I'll be pissed off. You know, so in that kind of instance, you could kind of like, you know, turn it around or whatever. But it don't
That's true.
apply
That's
to
true.
everything because some things is like if it's no and you don't agree with it, then why go forward?
Yeah, not like when it comes to like your values and your standards, then
Yes, your
I
morals.
mean, but
Yes,
yeah, your morals, your standards. So yeah, you don't
yeah.
want to, because sometimes you may, like for example, you may let somebody curse in front of you if they ask you nicely. I won't be able to say it unless I say a curse word with this last part, and then all of a sudden they think
Wait,
they could just curse with you
wait. Is that what you be
after that.
saying?
So
Is that what you be saying? Like, let me just say this curse.
just say this part in a curse word. It's not gonna sound right.
Oh, it's like that kid who want to tell you a story, and they be like, "Mom, can I just say that word just so I can tell you how the story went?"
I seen this little YouTube thing or was it Facebook thing, and the mother and the little girl was like, "Mommy, can I curse? Please,
I
please,
think I
can I
saw that
curse?"
one. It's a
And she
little
was like,
girl, and she went
"Yeah,
off, and she said like the
oh my
worst bomb word.
goodness."
I saw that.
Anybody seen that one?
Yes, I saw that.
Oh
She
my
went off.
gosh! I was like, "Dang, she know a lot of curse
I
words."
thought she was gonna say like one word, like you know,
Yeah,
but honey, she
she
went
went off.
off. I said, oh, she didn't.
So yeah, so all right. So I think that we, talked about a lot about, standing and affirming your no, how it's healthy for you, how it gives you peace of mind. Um, and it also, helps you show compassion, be assertive. And it basically ensures your needs are being met. So in my opinion. And
And self care,
those are some things
yeah,
you can do. Yeah,
absolutely.
self-care.
Your self care, your freedom, your peace of mind. You know, it's a lot that comes along with creating boundaries. And again, like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a red flag when somebody decides like to say, um, like how dare you create a bound? How dare you do this, right? Because automatically you know at that point, like they're not respecting how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the creating boundaries aspect as well. Like I need you to understand where I'm coming from. And if you can't understand
Mm-hmm.
where I'm coming from, then you're not being respectful of my feelings at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's major.
Yeah. So, as far as also boundaries when you are in a relationship and this person, every time y'all get into an argument, they telling their friends, they telling their family and stuff like that. That's another boundary that you should create within your relationship, right? Why?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I don't believe no one should be a part of your relationship in that manner, right? Because also, if it's just an argument, right? Everybody argues in their relationship. Like, is that public notice every time you have an argument? You're like, but you also got to have discernment of who you sharing that information with, right? Because
Mhm.
if this is something that's happened repetitive, what's gonna happen if like it's like you coming to me and you're like, oh, he pissed me off, and then you come again. Now I'm gonna start being pissed off with him, right? Because now it makes me look at him in a different light, and that's
Mhm.
what happens.
Mhm.
It'll make the person who you go into and complain about look at that person differently, and it might not be even that major. In fact, it could be your damn fault, right? But
Mhm. Mhm.
but
But they
because
only hear one side of
you're
it,
only
so
hearing one side, and now you have that person feeling a way towards the other person when they don't even got the full story. Actually, they really only got one side to it.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a boundary that I kind of like when I got into the marriage part of the side that I kind of kept to myself for a long time,
mhm,
until I had like, we had like the worst years ever, like worst 3 years. I still kept that to myself, and something happened to where I couldn't.
mhm,
Like with my closest friends, I always told like these two people. I always told them everything, but they knew him. They hung
mhm,
out with him, so a
mhm,
lot of times they didn't believe me, and a
mhm.
lot of times they'd be like, "Oh no, he just thinking this way." There go one of them right there, Mrs. Selfie. Oh, you woke up, Mrs. Selfie. So I would tell her all the time and
I
tell my
can't
other
see
friend
from
Crystal
our
all the
end
time.
who's on there.
For real?
Yeah, it only show like yeah, it doesn't show on my end who's coming up or anything. Like if somebody says
It does.
anything, yeah, it doesn't show on my
Oh,
end.
I thought you could still see the comments.
No, I can't. I
For
cannot see
real?
them. Yeah, at all.
Oh, I didn't do anything. I thought we could both see them. Dang. Okay, so yeah, so as far as, but everybody else, my other family and all that stuff, I never really told them anything until something really big happened. And I was just like, you know
Hmm.
what? Skip that. I'm telling everything. But it was the worst mistake that I ever did. Um,
Yeah,
so
because
that's what, yes.
it had them all looking at him at one way, right?
Yes.
Not
And
knowing the
at
full
first they didn't,
story.
yeah. And now it's like, now,
And then be mad at you like, oh, she's still there. She complained about her. She's still, and that's how people look at you. Period, right? Like, oh, she's still there. But yet, last week she was just talking about this, and that. And in the end, people don't understand. Like when it comes to your marriage, like you're gonna do whatever needs to be done. Like you might just need a venting session, like, and it's okay. But
hmm
you gotta
hmm
also, again, use discernment and knowing who you can vent to, because everybody should not be privy to that type of
If you
information.
plan on staying, don't tell all your family members.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I recommend. If you plan on staying, don't tell all your family members.
yeah, exactly. Your family members or your
Because
friends.
then you gotta deal with,
But the sad part
little
about
things.
that is that they could also have experienced the same exact thing, but they would never see themselves in your shoes at the moment,
Mm.
right? So now they're passing all this judgment, and you were like, I know you not talking when you was in, like, don't do that, like, don't do that, like. But it's just so
Yeah.
easy for people to do. It is so easy. But yeah, definitely, you got to refrain.
Yes, Mr. Selfie said, family don't forget or forgive.
Absolutely, and
hmm
and and you don't blame them, right? Because like if that's somebody who you love and you care about, your best interest is your loved one. By
hmm
all means, you want to be pro them,
hmm
but you got to also be at a point to look at different perspectives and go, if you got somebody who just constantly like, oh, just leave them. Nah, that ain't the person who you go to at all. Like that's not who you go to. Like sometimes you need a different perspective on things, and maybe you just hot headed at the moment, and you just not getting it, But you don't need that person that's going to just be just pro you because they love you. Like I want somebody to
hmm
be pro me, but pro me and check me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, you want
Like if
somebody
I'm
that'll be biased with both of the situation, both of y'all, instead of just on your side.
yeah,
Understand,
like
and that's how they were because they knew him. So that's why I talked to them more about him
mhm.
than anybody for like most of our marriage until that happened. And then, I did that for like a year, and I was like, you know what, I'm done. I ain't saying nothing to nobody.
Yeah. You gotta have those,
anymore.
that's that accountability. Like, you gotta have friends who are going to be by your side, but also check you. Like, you gotta have those friends that's going to check you and be like, nah, what you did was wrong. Or what you said, you could have said it this way, and it would have changed the whole trajectory of the conversation or the outcome altogether. You got to have that, because if not, if you got people who just like, yeah, you're right, you have, nah, because there's no way you're right in every argument. Like, it is no way. It's something. No way. It's no way.
Yeah. So
anybody, like, because I can't see anything. It's just crazy.
What happened? Touch the screen. Did it come back up?
I did.
Maybe
like nothing. Yeah, no, nothing is coming up.
Even when you put something in the chat, you ain't see the other ones either.
Yeah, like nothing was coming up on my end. I don't know why.
So the friend is each one teach. No, that friend is each one teach one. That's the other married lady. Each one teach one. That actually came up on Monday when we was talking about the slap heard around the world.
I'm so over that slap.
She came up and gave her opinion. She don't know, but I was like, oh, come on, she wanted to give her opinion.
I'm so over that. I'm like, I just wish everybody just stop talking about it. Like, it's like you go on, certain things go on, you be like, I'm not even logging on today because I'm just so over it.
Yeah.
Like, because they don't know when to stop. They just keep dragging it and dragging it and dragging it. It's just like, and that's what everything that becomes trending is just like, we're gonna talk about this all day. Like, everybody's so perfect in their relationships everybody's so perfect that we just gonna have opinions on everybody. Like stop. Like, I get the jokes at the well, but let's stop. Let's stop. I hate trending stuff. It drives me nuts. Like, I know that.
I know. I first wanted to talk about it like right after it happened, but after that, I'm like, okay, I keep seeing all these new things coming up. Like, here's a different angle from the back where Jada was laughing. Oh, look what his mother said. Oh, and I'm just like, dang, they just keep going and going and going.
They are not.
But it's different.
They are not stopping, and that's gonna go on for the next couple. I'm telling you.
But you know what happens though? They give us this something shiny to look at, and then they sneak other things in that nobody ain't looking at. That I heard about.
The distraction, right? So the distraction.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why we going through a famine. Because food's so expensive. Like let's talk about
why
that.
Does Bill Gates owns 75% of farms in United States?
Like,
and he the one giving the hokey, that recommending the hokey for everybody.
So this is what I'm talking about. So it's always a distraction. Because I got to the point, I was just like, well, who won an Oscar? Like, because
I know, I ain't even know. Well, I don't even care who won an Oscar, for real.
But my whole thing was, that was just my question, just being smart afterwards. It's like, well, who won?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh,
nobody knows.
4 people of color won. And I'm like, oh, they did? Like you didn't even know, because this is what they were talking about. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to carry on and drag out for like the next maybe 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks. And then it's going to be a done deal. It's going to be on to something else.
Yeah. We had Questlove, another melanated brother. He won for the documentary when that slap happened. So, I mean, I didn't know about that either. So, that was like a side piece that I found out when I was on another podcast, CKQ podcast on Tuesdays. Shout him out. Look for him on Instagram as well. So I mean, he pointed that out, that Questlove won, an Oscar for that. I was like, wow, he did a documentary. I didn't even know that. All I knew was that it was a slap.
That's all I knew about. Oh, you heard with somebody that got the shit slapped out of them. That was it.
Then he said the producer was melanated, and a lot of people who worked as that the director was melanated. Like, all these people, we had all these melanated people doing all this stuff, And then that's what you do? You act out on that? But anyway, I didn't know. He told me that they had some more, and I was just like, Dad, I didn't know that. All I knew was a smack. But anyway, let's get
Yes.
off that.
Yes.
We
Well,
talking about boundaries, but
let's create a
men,
boundary. Let's
yeah,
create a
yeah,
boundary.
no
Let's
more, no
shut
more
that
of that.
down, right? Let's shut that down. Let's create a boundary.
Mrs. Selfie did a live today about the three principles, and it was kind of like, standing in your no and stuff like that, and affirming your no, and she said some things like that, and about that was what I caught when I started watching it at the end. So
Hmm.
do you? Oh, I forgot what the question was. Look at that. Now I gotta look at my page again. So somebody's married and they decide, I think you answered that question. And they decide, you know what, I want to change my boundaries now. Say you've been married for 10 years and they like, you know what, I don't like when you do this to me no more.
Hmm.
How can you do that? Like, how can that person automatically change that? Like that's something that has to be worked on, right?
Yeah, so it's not going to happen overnight, right? Because they've been doing it for so
Yeah.
long. But can you be mad at a person because they decided to change something? No, because as you grow
Mm-hmm.
older, you change. Things within you change. What you were
Mm-hmm.
okay with, and it doesn't even have to be like a year ago. You can just wake up and go, nah, today's not doing this no more. People are like, oh, change takes time. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to always take this long amount of time that we think. Because when you care about
Mm-hmm.
somebody, like, and something is an issue for them, you are going to address the situation. That's just how I see it. Again, in my opinion.
So it's just like 8 minutes after 11. I don't want to keep you, but just the last things on maybe some solutions some people can do, in your opinion, to help create those boundaries and stay in their no.
Well, just knowing they choose their self first, like that's that's the main part of creating boundaries is that you choose you. So you are choosing you. So with choosing you, you get to create how other people are going to treat you. You get to create like how you're spoken to. You get to say no and not have to give an explanation to anyone. No, two exclamation points, not one but two. Because you have to create boundaries with people because if not, you lose so much power within. And people think it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. It is. It's a very big deal because not having boundaries make people just do whatever they want to do to you. That's whether it's
Mm-hmm.
friendship, it's relationship, your children. You have to set boundaries. Like imagine if you let your kids just do whatever they want to do,
Man,
right?
hey, Nay.
Like imagine if you did that. Like so, boundaries have to be created for everyone. There's no limit. Like I don't care. Your kid is 2. They need it's some boundaries at 2. People, oh, they just little. No, no, they know, they know. So,
Yeah, I mean,
like
it's just like sports. If sports didn't have rules, if it didn't have boundaries of where you could play them.
exactly, like they'd be all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They'd be all over the place. So with everything, like you have to just stand firm in what you believe in and choose yourself. Like when you're not choosing yourself, you're giving everyone the power to do whatever they want to do to you. Saying yes to times when you want to say no, being available when you may not be mentally available to people. It's okay. It's okay to just be like, no, I can't do that today. Even if someone calls you and they want to complain, like I think it's proper to even ask someone before you even let it all out. Like, are you available today? Can I put this on
Mm-hmm.
you? Like, I think that is so important to even ask people because sometimes they might have their own stuff going on and yours is just adding to theirs, which is going to create more problems. You know, so I even had to take a stand with stuff like that. You know, when you got to tell, like, are you mentally available to hear what I got to say to you right now in this moment? And if you're not, I can't be mad if you're not. Like, sometimes we are not at the capacity to take on other people's stuff when you have your own stuff. Like, I don't have it. I don't have it in me. And if you are the person that takes on people's things and you taking it on full throttle, which means you're feeling their feelings. Like, sometimes you could be in a good mood. Somebody call you and tell you about something. Now you pissed off. That had nothing to do with you. But now you pissed off because you care about the person,
All
right?
that
So now,
energy,
yeah. So you take, so that whole transferring of energy is very, very important, because it all plays a part in each other. Transferring of energy, creating boundaries, standing firm in your no. All those tie in together.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I forgot what I had a question when you was talking, and I should have wrote it down. It was kind of like, so would you say someone is a masochist when they know they not really available in their head, but they still ask you what's wrong, and you know that they about to tell you, they asking you something, they like, what's wrong? And they know that they not really available, but they still ask you. Do you think that person is a masochist?
So
When you
wait.
saying that, because it was kind of like, you was like, well, you should ask somebody before you let out on them. And that just automatically let me think of somebody that I know that would always ask me what's wrong, even though they wasn't really ready to hear it or didn't want to hear it. To me,
Yeah,
that's
so
being a masochist to yourself. Like, is that my
like
fault?
no, because my thing is, like, if you really don't want to know, that's like, for instance, when somebody go, "Oh, how's your day?" Right? And
Yeah.
now you decide to go, "Girl, let me tell you what
You
happened to
should
me
have
today."
never asked me how my day was.
Right? And it's so funny. I think I put a meme about that the other day. Like, all I said was hello. I didn't even expect a follow-up conversation after that. Right? Like, because it's the truth. Like, so when people ask you, like, "So how you doing today?" They really generally is asking you to just say something really quick, right? "Oh, I'm good," and keep it moving. Now you stop and you start going, "Well, let me tell you what happened this morning. My kid did this, and then as I was walking and got here, this happened." That person is sitting there like, "I should have never asked." What? How was their day going? You know, and that's just what it is, because they really don't want. It's like a term, like just being nice, right? When you just ask that, it's just a question, just what you ask. Like, do you really want to know how
Yeah, I
somebody's
get
day?
that. I think I get that, because a lot of times in the beginning, what I do is I'll just say, "Oh, I'm fine." I'll just say that in the beginning, and then the person will continue.
To
No,
ask you,
you don't sound fine. Yeah, they
what
would
the
do
sound,
that.
like, what the sound is fine sound like? Like, is there a different tone? Like, I know sometimes when somebody is aggravated and they have other things going on. Like,
Yeah.
you can hear the distress in their voice. You can.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are going to start to question me, and because you honestly feel like something is wrong, then you need to be available to listen. Like, I shouldn't even have to ask
Thank
you if you
you.
are available. You should have made yourself available at that point, because you're digging and you're poking, and at that point you want to know something. Like, what is it that you want to know? Like,
Like,
that would be
I
my
be
that would be my
trying to not. I be trying to not say things. I be trying to just say good things that's been going on, and then I want to just move on. But then if the person just keep talking, or not even talking, but or don't say anything, or they ask more questions, because this is a person that questions a lot. So if they ask more questions, then I'm just going on and on and on again. So yes. But anyway, I had to learn. I'm still trying to learn not to tell everything.
uh-huh.
I'm still learning. I'm still like with my closest friend, like I said, I used to tell her, Mrs. Selfie, and then the other person everything, and now I'm learning not to, but it's still hard when I'm talking to them because they keep asking me. And I'm just like, I don't want to tell you, but you keep asking me.
That's because part of you probably just want to get it out, right? Part of you just want to get it out. So what do? You become vulnerable because now they keep asking. So, and then you got to be careful in what you're sharing and who you're sharing with, right? Because sometimes you can share way too much, and now you're gonna go home and now you're gonna be overthinking, right? You're gonna be like, man, I shouldn't have said
it's
that.
Still them two, not my whole family no more, but them two, I be trying not to. I be trying.
You can't control yourself.
Because I'm so used to doing it for years, so I be trying though. I be like, yeah, everything's fine, good. Yeah, all right, whatever.
Because those are your friends, right? So they're gonna know exactly what you're thinking. They're gonna know exactly. They know your tone, so they know when things is off. Like that's what friends do. They know. You don't even have to say anything much, but they tell you like your real friends can hear you even when you're quiet, right? So it's times like, you might be going through something, they call you out the blue, and you're like, how you even knew I was going through something? But because sometimes your real friends, they know, like they can sense like something is up. Let me call her and check up on her. But again, having, like we said earlier, having discernment on who you feel your personal business to. You got to be careful with that. Definitely, because at the slightest chance of somebody, sometimes they'll take advantage of what you've told them, in a vulnerable moment, and make it out to be more than what it needs to be. So you got to be careful with that.
Yes. So
I'm finally just seeing Mrs. Selfie comment with the family don't forget or forgive. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
That's lagging over there. I think maybe you have a lag over there, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. That's crazy.
But,
I mean, people were saying stuff and I didn't even see anything.
Do you see everybody?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I thought you were seeing the comments too.
No, I could not see anything.
Because J1Mlo had said some more stuff, but I ain't really paid attention to it until after it already went past. But I just started trying to pin his stuff up. But then other people got on too. But we was, you was talking, so I was like, okay, I ain't gonna say everything everybody's saying. But this has been a good conversation. Okay, we got 2 people left in here. I think one of them is me because I'm in it on here, so I'm able to broadcast it to the Facebook page and the YouTube page by sharing the screen on my streaming service. So I share the screen from my other from my Yannick's Instagram, and I go to Married Ladies, and then I can share that screen so everybody who is seeing me here can also see us here. Because at first I was like, man, we having good conversations on Instagram and they not being shared in the group. So
yeah, because even I didn't even get to
do
save
that.
the
So
one
that's a
I
little
did
trick.
the other day. I was like, I'm so new to this. I didn't even save the one that I did the other day.
Oh, you didn't save it?
I didn't even save it.
That's what happened to me my first time too.
I was like, I didn't
had
even
to do it like 3 times.
And I had people texting me like, that was a good conversation. That was a good topic. And I'm like, wait, I don't have it. I'm like, I didn't save it.
Oh, so when you first go off, it'll ask you to discard it or share, and just press the share button.
Yeah.
And that's how it stays.
Yeah. Usually when you start getting up in age, like all this technology stuff, you be like, listen, I got to figure all this stuff out.
Girl, I would think I'm closer to 50 than you are.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You got me about, I think, 2 years, right?
I knew I was getting old with my cousin Tanya turned 50. I was like, dang. Damn, I'm getting old now. If she
I
50,
know.
I'm right behind her.
I know,
4
right?
years behind her.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
so funny because it
But
don't even seem like it was 4 years when we were growing up, right? It seemed like they
yeah, it
had us
seemed
by
way
like
more than
10 years.
that.
Like they had us by 10 years or something. And when you get old, you're like, wait, we only 4 years apart, and we was like looking up to y'all, listening to y'all.
Y'all ain't know nothing either.
Right?
Y'all knew stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. They was like grown to us at that point. You know, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this was
We was
good. This
talking
was
on here
definitely
about
good.
how our block used to be. I was saying about how my block. Oh no, on my family meeting, I was just talking about how Union Street was the bomb when I was younger until crack came. That was a wrap. I
Yeah,
said we used to have
yeah.
block
I actually
parties,
feel
4th of
sorry for the
July.
kids now. Like the kids now don't get to
Mm-hmm.
experience what we had then,
Mm-hmm.
where we were outside. It was like so many
Fire
kids.
hydrant,
Yes,
always
like
outside.
double dutch in the streets and freeze tag,
Yeah.
like all that stuff that we had. Like I look at my daughter, the youngest one. I'm like, y'all did not get a good hand. Y'all was not dealt a good hand on this
Nah,
childhood thing, because all y'all
they
got is
don't.
electronics. Like
Mm-hmm.
most kids don't even go outside
And
and play like that.
you know
Depends
what
on the
kills me
area.
sometimes? My kids be watching stuff and be saying ooh and ah like they actually in it. Whoa, yeah, oh, but you
Now I
ain't
remember when
riding in
they
the
first
Bible.
started. Listen, when they first started that YouTube thing, I was like, you sitting here watching somebody else play with dolls.
Open and open toys and play with them.
I'm like, what
How
in
sad
the
is that?
crazy nonsense is that? And I think it
Them
was better
kids
because we had
love
each other, right? We
that.
could go downstairs, upstairs. We was like going to each other's house. We bring all our
Yeah,
dolls to each other's house. That's what we were doing,
yeah.
right? We were not sitting here looking at no screens talking about,
Watching
ooh.
somebody else play and they loving it.
I'm like,
They can
what
watch
in
that for
the
hours.
I'm like, this is crazy. This is, I was so annoyed with that. I'm like, nah, we about to get you some friends around here because this right here. I was like, I had just moved. I was like, nah, we not doing this. We about to find you some friends around the way or something because this right here we can't do.
I
But
know.
it's
I need to find.
crazy.
Like my daughter's homeschool and she goes to like a private online school that's run by people in Trinidad. So
Mm.
she has one other girl who's American that's here. So I'm trying to get them together. It's just like a struggle with the mother's schedule and my schedule. It's just a struggle. Like back in the days, it wasn't that hard to
Yeah,
make
they need
friends.
that interaction. They really do.
Mm-hmm.
Like this whole tablet stuff and being online all the time and like this is why they don't know how to communicate because everything is
Mm-hmm.
they need that interpersonal relationships with people. Like they need it. It's an absolute
I
must.
want to send my daughter back, but I don't know. I think she's doing much better not being going to school in a sense.
Hmm.
But I think her social thing is decreasing. Everything else is
Hmm.
getting, better, but the social aspect is decreasing. And I do take her to dance class once a week, but she don't really get to see them kids outside of that once a week. And when they cancel it, then she got to wait another whole week to go again.
Yeah. Yeah, but the
But
dance
anyway,
might help her. Yeah, that might help her though
mhm,
with socializing.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
but when
going to
they're
dance
home for
class.
so long, it just makes them so much more reserved into themselves
Mm-hmm.
that even when they get in a setting like that, it's almost like awkward. Like, okay, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I make a friend? Like,
Then you
that's
got to
the only
talk to them
part.
about making friends ahead of time. I remember my
Yes.
mom preparing us, saying this what you should say or something. But then I remember my mom making friends for us a lot of times too. She would go outside and be like, "Okay, let's start playing double dutch."
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so you
And
got to do that.
nowadays, you got to tell your kids young because these kids is something else. Like, you got to have those talks with
Yeah,
your
they got all
kids.
that information.
They know too much. So you have to let them know,
Mm-hmm.
like, watch homegirl right there. Like, you don't need to limit your time with talking to that one right there. Like, you got to let them know that. Like, it's too
Mm-hmm.
much.
Mm-hmm. So that's a
But yeah.
good boundary that you can help your children set. We're still talking
Mm-hmm.
about boundaries.
Yeah. I'm telling
So,
you,
yes,
how
that's a good
important
boundary.
are boundaries? It's so
Mm-hmm.
important. Like I heard my
Mm-hmm.
daughter one day on the phone. She gets on FaceTime, she's talking to her friends, and they're talking, and I hear her just like going in. And I'm like, and then I found out that her and the girl I stopped talking, and it had been like a week, and I didn't know about it. So I'm like, hey, why you ain't tell me that you and so were not talking? And she was like, oh, because I handled it. I'm like, you handled it? Like you 8 years old. What you mean you handled it? You know, and this is just like this from me talking to her and letting her know, like,
Mm-hmm.
have boundaries with people. Don't let people think they can talk to you any kind of way. And she was just like, I
Mm-hmm.
handled it. Like, it wasn't nothing to really say to you at this point. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's good.
But I'm like, so at that point, I'm like, I don't have to worry about her one bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to worry
Yeah.
about her at all, you know? But you have to start from a young age of teaching your kids to create those boundaries. It don't start just with adults. Like kids need to know. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
children are a piece of work. They're just as bad as adults because they're being raised by, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the type of adults they're being raised by. Then they, you know, from young they have that
Yeah.
in them. So yeah,
They do what they see more than what they're told.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
in my opinion.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree.
All right. So we coming on the 11:30 hour, girl.
I know, and I
You're
just
gonna be
said
blaming me when you're
that
tired in the
I
morning.
know. I'm definitely I'm gonna text you and be like, uh
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
you're
Eloquently spoken,
welcome,
y'all.
darling. You're welcome. You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Go to eloquentlyspoken.net and get them hoodies, get them t-shirts. And
Yes,
then also look for her on Instagram so you know when to join that group, right?
that's right. Every third Wednesday of every month.
All
Next
right.
meeting is April 20th. Funk them kids.
Okay. The subject? What's the
Funk
one
them.
for subject?
The one
Funk
they
them kids?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I like that one. I'm coming up. April 20th. Go to Eloquently Spoken for Us so you can see how to get on the Zoom call. It's for
Yes,
women.
yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes.
Women only. Men, you can't get on there, so don't even try. All right. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're
I
welcome,
appreciate it. Go
honey.
get some sleep, girl.
All right. You have a good
All
night.
right. Thanks.
All right. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Good night. So, thanks for joining us. This was about boundaries, creating boundaries. Make sure you go check out Eloquently Spoken for Us. So, creating boundaries, right? In the end, it helps you protect your peace of mind. It gives you safety, security. It helps you uh, show assertiveness, all those things. You know, um, don't lie, don't make up excuses. If you want to say no, say no. But this was a talk and a discussion about creating boundaries. But I want y'all to make sure you come to our Facebook page and our private Facebook page and join Three Married Ladies Opinions Podcast Facebook page and also our YouTube 3MLO. We're going to have a live show with me and Mrs. Selfie. The topic is She Got Kids. Y'all know that Life Jennings song, She Got Kids. So 7 p.m. this Sunday, me, Mrs. Selfie, and a guest is going to be talking about that subject, She Got Kids. So don't miss it, 7 p.m. Go check out 3MLO, 3MLOshop.com for our t-shirts and stuff like this one. Black love, black marriage, black unity. I think I'm going to change it to melanated too. So go check that out. Go check out mrselfie.com as well. And Eloquently Spoken for Us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, y'all. Peace. Bye.